excited today to offer this webinar to you in collaboration with the university libraries. The title of our webinar today, as shown on your screen, is Library at a Distance, the Basics. And we have two presenters today. Diana Hartle, who is the science with the Science Library, and John Prextel, the main library, but he also serves as the distance learning librarian. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. You will be able to enjoy this presentation today in listening mode only. However, you are welcome and invited to participate via chat with any questions, comments, or concerns you'd like to share. Additionally, you should be able to access the presentation notes and or slides as well. We have Elizabeth White with us today, and she'll be monitoring our questions. So if there's a question that requires immediate attention, she will certainly help assist with that. So we're going to start our webinar today with Diana, and I'm going to shift the presentation over to her at this time.
Thank you, Sharon. Yes, so I'm Diana Hartle, and I'm a research and instruction librarian at the Science Library. One thing to note about me, John, and Elizabeth, all of us have different liaison departments. So that's one of the things that we want to tell you today. So whatever your department is, whatever your major is, there is a liaison librarian who can help you out. I'm the College of Veterinary Medicine, Forestry, Mathematics, and Statistics. John Prechtel is the business librarian, and Elizabeth White is the SPIA librarian, the School of Public and International Affairs librarian. So a little note about the presentation today. We're going to briefly talk about content, but all of that content will be supplemented with a very robust resource guide that we've created for you. We realize that you may have come to this webinar for different reasons. So we just want to give kind of an overview here today and really supplement it with this resource guide. So I'll go there now. Elizabeth's going to put the link to the resource guide in the chat if she hasn't already, but it's really going to take you through all the different elements that we're talking about today. And it's also going to give you access to John Prechtel. He may be joining us a little bit later, but he is our distance learning librarian. So if you have specific needs as a distance learner, he's really going to be your point person for that, as well as being that business and economics librarian. You'll also have a link here to the chat with the librarian. So that's going to be a really quick way that you can get in touch with us. Anytime you see that bubble on one of our pages, that means there's somebody on the other end that can help you out. But everything that we're going to be talking about today in brief will be fleshed out a little bit more at this research guide. So hopefully you'll be able to find the answers to the questions you may have. So our outline today is simply to go over our library catalog. Some of you may be heading home after Thanksgiving, so we wanted to make sure that you knew ways that you can access library books, whether it's an ebook, ways that you can get access to print books, even if you're not at the UGA campus. We're going to talk about the research by subject listing. So whatever your major is, we've got a listing that will tell you the best databases to use in that discipline, as well as who your subject librarian is. Ways to optimize Google Scholar. We'll look at the multi-search, and this is kind of just a one-stop shop. So if you don't remember anything that you hear today, the multi-search is always a good default place to go to find information. It's multi-format, multidisciplinary, and we'll do a search in there just so you can see what it's like. Some of you may be here today because you're having issues managing all of this information overload. So UGA provides access to 2 citation management tools. And these are tools that just let you keep track of the references that you're collecting for your own research. We'll talk about services specific for distance learners, a little bit about writing support, and then how to get help when you need it. So our library catalog is available from our homepage, and in that catalog we have access to print books as well as ebooks. So if you're at a distance and you're not able to come into one of our library locations, you can come into our catalog and limit by ebooks. So the default search in our catalog is the holdings here at the University of Georgia. But if you want to expand your search, you can change that parameter to search all of the University System of Georgia holdings. So all eligible students, faculty, and staff of the University of Georgia can search this larger catalog that includes the holdings of all of the libraries within the University System of Georgia. Not only can you search those, you can request delivery of eligible circulating books to the UGA library of your choice, whether it's the main library or the science library, or whichever library is most convenient for you within the University System of Georgia. So for example, if you're heading home to Augusta and you want a print book, you can request an item be delivered to the Augusta University Library for pickup. So let's quickly look and see how that plays out. So this is all available at our library's homepage. And I usually say this sometime in my presentations, but the library homepage is really your jumping off point for all of your research needs. So always start here. It's just going to be a really good entree into all of the resources that we have available. So coming down here, you've got this option for books and more. So this is going to give you access to the books that we have at the University of Georgia. I'm going to go to the advanced search and just show you a couple ways that you can navigate within this resource. So if I was doing research on GIS and topography, for example, I can execute my search in here. This is primarily searching the books that we have on this topic. We'll talk about the multi-search and how you can get access to the scholarly journal articles. But what I want to point out here is over here on the left-hand side, you've got these ways that you can winnow your books down. So maybe you want that online book. Maybe you're not in Athens and you want to be able to access some sort of background material. You can come over here and limit to this full access online. If you prefer print, you've got this option here for available in the library. So the default here is that it searches our University of Georgia holdings. If I wanted to broaden my search, I can come up here and limit to University System of Georgia. And I said limit, but that's actually not limiting. This is now broadening my search. So where I had about 86 results before, now I'm searching that larger University System of Georgia catalog, and so now I get 115 results. So if there were books that you found in here that you wanted to have delivered, you can always come up here in the upper right-hand corner and log in. Once you log in with your UGA credentials, you can have books sent to whichever library location makes sense for you to access that print material. Okay, go back to our presentation. So that's our library catalog. We do have, we get our books from different vendors. So depending on who the vendor is, the way the download of that book may change. So linked to this presentation, as well as in that resource guide we mentioned at the beginning, we have a whole page dedicated to some best practices for how you can use whatever the vendor is that's providing the ebook. Some ebook vendors let you download the whole book and you can have the PDF. Others, you may have to create an account. There may be limits to how many pages you can look at a time, but that ebook parameters link will tell you how that all works. So one of the other things that we offer from our library homepage is the research by subject listing. So we have hundreds of different databases, and they have inscrutable names that don't really tell you what their coverage may be in a lot of cases. So what we've done at our homepage is we've sectioned those databases out by different subjects. So we'll go back to our library's homepage. Remember, that's your jumping off point. So over here, we've got research by subject. If you click on that, you'll see every department, every major, every college, every school represented at the University of Georgia. I always pick on the engineering guide because this, engineers have a whole different way of doing research than most other researchers do. So if you came here and clicked on engineering, you've got this guide engineering down here. So this is going to tell you the best databases to use for the field of engineering. I always point out this ASTM standards. So engineers are all about figuring out what standards are in place for different materials. And we have access to those through our subscribed content through this link here. So not only is this a good place to go to see the databases to use, but you also get a feel for the types of research that goes on in a different discipline. So if you are a new researcher, you can come here and see the types of research that are going on in these different disciplinary fields. The other thing you'll see here is your librarian. So the librarian for engineering is Ian Thomas. You've got a way that you can email him, call him. So that's going to be your point person if you're an engineering major. We realize a lot of people use Google Scholar, and that might be your primary way of accessing scholarly content. So we want to tell you a couple ways that you can enhance that access. So again, starting at our library's homepage, we've actually added an option here to search Google Scholar. So if you come here and click on Google Scholar, and we'll do our GIS topography search here. I've already set up my View It at UGA, so it's showing up. And because I've gone through the library's homepage, it should give you this access to view items that we have through our UGA subscribed content. If you're not seeing that when you're in Google Scholar, you can add it by going over here to these three dashes next to the Google Scholar. You've got this option for settings, and under here you've got library links. So you can choose, you can search whatever library it is that you've got access to. So I've already got University of Georgia set here. So once you've set that, you'll now see that View It at UGA option in your Google Scholar. The other thing you can do in your settings is if you're using some sort of bibliography manager such as EndNote or RefWorks, you can set those download options to appear for all of your citations under this bibliography manager option. And one other thing, so you'll notice here I've got this import into EndNote. EndNote is the bibliography manager that I use, so I've got this option here where I can import this directly into my EndNote library. One of the other things that you get in Google Scholar is this cite option. Maybe using a citation manager is a little bit much. Google Scholar does give you this option to cite in the standard format, so MLA, APA, Chicago, etc. So you can copy and paste that into your bibliography. Okay, so that's optimizing Google Scholar. Next, we're going to talk about our multi-search. The multi-search is a popular way to get research. It is a single search engine, but it searches over 100 of our scholarly databases. So instead of navigating to that research by subject and trying to figure out, what disciplinary database might be the best, the multi-search allows you to search across those different databases. It doesn't include all of them, so it might still be worth your while to go to the research by subject to see what some of those other databases may be, but the multi-search is a good kind of one-stop shop to be able to find those, articles across those different databases. Because it includes so many databases, it's multidisciplinary. So if you've got a topic that spans disciplines, you can use it to find those different articles. It also has multi-formats. So it's not just going to be your peer-reviewed journal articles. It'll have magazine articles, major newspaper articles, books, theses and dissertations. So it'll find all of the scholarly content that's out there. And then you can access the full text with links to PDFs right there in the multi-search, or you've got the Find It at UGA button that will take you to the full text if we have it available. So we'll go back to our library's homepage. When you come to our library's homepage, the multi-search is the default search engine. So when you see this search box here, it's searching our multi-search. I always like to go to the advanced search, especially if you're off campus. This will just ensure that you get logged in via the single sign-on. So you notice up here it says, hello guest, log in for full access. If you click on that, it'll take you to the single sign-on portal where you can put in your credentials and have access to the content in this database. Okay, so we're in the multi-search now, so we'll do our GIS and topography search. I just want to point out a couple of things about the multi-search. So you'll have noticed, just like in our library catalog, on the left-hand side here, we have ways that we can limit down our results. Some people may be tempted to limit to online only, but actually there's a lot of content in here through the Find It at UGA button. So if don't limit over here, because that's just gonna, you'll have access to a lot more content through this Find It at UGA. Online only would limit anything that didn't have the PDF right here in the database. So don't enact that limit. If you are being asked to only cite peer-reviewed journal articles, you've got that limit over here. Because remember, this is a lot of different kinds of content. So you've got academic journals, you've got conference materials, reports, magazines, books. So if your assignment requires scholarly or peer-reviewed journals, you can enact that limit over here. This is going to be in a relevancy ranking. So I know a lot of the patrons that I work with prefer to have their date newest at the top of the list. So that can be manipulated over here with that ranking over here. But basically, this is going to be just kind of a, it's a very large database because it includes so many of our different smaller databases. So we get a lot of results in here, maybe not as much as you would get in Google Scholar, but it's a fair amount of results that we have here. If you're getting too many results, you can always kind of limit down a little bit. Maybe you want to put those words in the titles of the results that are coming up so that the results will be a little bit more specific. And that's just a good way to kind of limit down. So now we only have 186 here. If you did want those scholarly or peer reviewed, you could come over here and limit that way. But basically what we're going to see here is a little bit of information about the articles that met my search criteria. So let's see one that looks good. Do we want to map the moon? Maybe. That one actually looks pretty good, but it's from a symposium. I'm going to pretend that we're mapping the moon today. So we've got this multi-criteria GIS analysis of the topography of the moon and better solutions for potential landing. So if it's something that you're interested in, if you click on the article title, it's going to give you a little bit more information about it. So it tells you who authored this paper, where it was published, the page numbers. It'll give you some subject terms. Sometimes those subject terms might be a good place to find additional keywords to use. So if you're not having a lot of luck with the keywords you're using, you might come in here and see some of the subject terms that are coming up and incorporate those in your search strategy. And then you've got a description. So this is going to be your abstract about what this article is talking about. Once you've decided that it's something that you're interested in, you've got this Find It at UGA button. So that's very similar to what we saw in Google Scholar with the View It at UGA. This Find It at UGA button will go out and search our scholarly subscriptions and tell us if we have access to it through our online subscriptions. So we see here the full text is available. As you come down here, you've got the option of where it's available. If we didn't have it available, you do have a way that you can request via interlibrary loan. So interlibrary loan staff will find a library that does have it. They'll scan it and send it to you free of charge pretty quickly too. They try for 24 to 48 hour turnaround. Things are a little different now, so sometimes libraries may not be able to process things quite that quickly. Okay, so that's our multi-search. And remember, that's kind of just your one-stop shop. So if you're not sure where to start at the multi-search, because that's going to be a really good representation of the databases that we have access to. So then just a quick word about citation management. So some of you may be collecting lots of citations, lots of PDFs, and you want a way that you can manage those. So through UGA, we have subscriptions to both RefWorks and EndNote. Both of them function pretty much the same. They allow you to create your own library of the citations that you're interested in. You can have the PDF stored there as well. They interface with your Word document, so you can pull those citations from your library into your Word document in whatever format you need. So the citation managers do the work of formatting your bibliography. So if you're using APA or MLA, those styles come standard in these tools. If you're in the sciences, there's a gazillion different journal styles, and they're all just a little bit different. EndNote and RefWorks have those styles in those programs, so you can very easily format your bibliography very quickly. So if it's something that you're interested in, we've got a link in the presentation where you can set up a training session. There's probably about 8 of us at the UGA Libraries who are EndNote and RefWorks trainers. So we're more than happy to meet with you via Zoom and make sure that you're using it to its full potential. Okay, and since we're all sort of distance learners now, we just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the specific services for distance learners. One is that we have the ability to scan items for you. So if you see that something is only available in print, we can scan a journal article or a book chapter, as long as it's not 300 pages long. We can scan that information for you and send it your way. We do have that borrowing and delivering of print-only books through Gill Express, which we talked about at the beginning a little bit. So if you're not in Athens currently and you need access to a print book, but you are close to one of those University System of Georgia libraries, you can log in and have the book delivered to the library that's easiest for you to access. For those people who are honest to goodness distance learners who aren't in Athens, we do have a way that we can deliver books to out-of-state residents. There's a registration form that has to be filled out, and then there's a book home delivery form that needs to be filled out. And then we have interlibrary loan. Interlibrary loan will work for journal articles. So if it's something we don't have in our collection, they can get articles for you. They do print only books, but you'd have to follow the instructions here to make sure that you could get it. Okay, sorry. So our personal research assistants. So we talked a little bit about chat with a librarian. We have that chat bubble in almost all of our different resources. If you go to our library's homepage and scroll down a little bit, anytime you see this chat with a librarian, that means there's somebody who's staffing our chat currently, and they can answer any questions that you have. We do staff this pretty late into the evening. I think after Thanksgiving, we'll be staffing this till 10 p.m. Not quite as late as we do in a normal semester, but it is pretty late into the evening that you can chat with somebody. So that's really best suited for basic questions. We have our phone numbers, which are available here on the homepage. So you can call us. Hours are roughly the same as what our chat hours are, but if maybe it's a little easier to talk to somebody, there's actually a human who will answer the phone if you call that number. We are offering in-depth consultations via Zoom. So there's a request form linked in the presentation here. If you go to that research by subject area and navigate to whatever your subject is, you can find out who your subject specialist librarian is, get in direct contact with them, and they can help you with any questions you have, or if you've got in-depth research questions about your subject area. And then something that's a little out of our wheelhouse and out of our realm, but something that we do support pretty heavily at the UGA libraries. We used to have writing centers at the MLC and the Science Library, but that's all gone online now, and they've been very open and receptive to taking appointments. So if you need help with the writing process, both DAE and the English department are offering writing services at a distance. So that's linked in your presentation as well, just because it's such a great resource and it'll help you out if you're having issues with that writing component. Okay, so I told you it would be quick. It was only 28 minutes. I saw a couple chats come in. I didn't actually see what they are. Elizabeth, is there anything we need to address, or have you been answering them in real time?
Yeah, we did have one question, and you covered this a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that we gave a complete answer about if other USG students can utilize our resources and utilize our librarians as experts. So you did talk a little bit about Gill Express, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to give a fuller answer.
Yeah, so that that Gill Universal, that library catalog that covers all of the University System of Georgia, any student in the University System of Georgia can participate. So they can request books. If a library is open, they can walk into like a University of North Georgia student could walk into our library and check out books in person too. As far as the librarian thing, I help people routinely who aren't UGA affiliates. I think librarians are typically very generous people, so that's also an option as well, especially since we're the flagship university.
You do not have access if you're a USG student to our Galileo, though, unfortunately. So, but we're happy to help you and see if we can find workarounds to getting what you need.
I will mention this, and it's maybe not as great of an option these days, but at the science library, the library where I work, we do have a couple public access computers. These don't exist at either of the other any of the other libraries, but anybody can come in and use those computers and gain access to Galileo that way. You know, of course, that's maybe not the most feasible of answers, but it does give you a tiny little bit of access to our Galileo databases.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are those all the questions, Elizabeth?
Yes, that is it. But I also like to point out that you have a myriad of ways to contact us. You can chat with us, you can email us, you can call us if you still like to talk on the phone. We are in the middle of COVID, so maybe that human interaction is what you would like. But you can contact us if after this session you have questions that pop into your head. Please feel free.
Let me show you one other thing, just because.
Oh, I'm sorry, Diana.
Oh, you're fine.
Oh.
I know we put the link to the presentation and into the resource guide in the chat, but if you forget that, you can always go to course guides here, and in this alphabetical listing, find library at a distance. And I don't know if this will be an easy way to remember or not. So we've got the course guide here, so you can go to library at a distance, the basics, and this is going to give you all of that information that we've corralled here. So there's a wealth of information here that can help if you have any questions.
Okay. I wanted to ask if there was a quick way they can get the contact information on the website. You mentioned being able to contact, you know, someone at the library after the session. So can they just go to your website and there's a
I mean, probably the quickest way to get in touch will be this chat. So you can always, you know, anytime you see that bubble, that means somebody's there who can answer your question.
Okay. Want to make sure they know how to get the help they need.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, if there are no additional questions or no additional announcements, we would just like to thank everyone again so much for sharing part of your day with us today. Please take advantage of the resources that we've provided for you in the chat and reach out if you need help or assistance. And keep an eye out for future webinars. Hopefully, we'll be bringing you another iteration sometime soon. And we hope that everyone has a very happy holiday. And if there's nothing else, I guess we can end the meeting.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.